Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge. Hope you're all doing really well and staying warm.
Oh, staying warm. As of today, it's like negative 14, feels like negative 40 with the wind chill in the old QC.
Yeah, I thought yesterday was cold. And then today I'm like, I'll go out and, shovel all the snow that keeps coming. Yeah.
Have to shovel all those big ice chunks that the plow pushes in front of your driveway.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
But it looks like your road, you don't have to worry about that too much. Just
like, yeah, because they don't plow it.
Yeah,
they plowed
exactly.
it once, I think. And it's like once you get out to the main road, that's fairly clear. I would think. I guess I haven't been out today. I worked from home.
It's not too bad. Whatever that road is you turn onto to get to your road,
yeah,
that one's pretty bad.
And it's like one lane traffic because all the cars are parked to the side and the snowplow goes around them and shit.
Yeah, so it's worse than it normally is.
Yeah, at least in the summer you can kind of like drive up a little bit on the curb and get around anybody coming that direction.
Yeah, but overall, not too bad. What was it? Saturday, one of the kids had a birthday party to go to at Fun Zone.
Okay.
Out in LeClaire.
Oh,
or
geez.
Eldridge, I mean. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take 61 out there. And it was just horrible. And I'm like, are you sure you want to go to this thing? And like, like the car was a big ice cube.
Are you dying to go?
Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, and she's like, it's just a little bit of snow. And I'm like, okay. And then I started counting the cars that were in the ditch as we were going by. And then like the Amber Alert signs they have, they all just said, travel is not advised. So it's kind of like one of those.
Hey, you know what? I don't listen to authority, okay?
I mean, I made it out. That's why I drove, because my old lady was just going to take the boy out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'll drive you. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of authority, we were at a punk rock show. That was really good. I missed the band that I wanted to go see. I got there a little bit late. Launchpad McQuack. It was their first show, a friend of mine. And, but the last band to play was also some friends of mine, of a band called Blaster. Oh, I got their CD here. I ripped it to my computer, so I was going to let you take a hold of it. Oh, here's another CD, too. I listened to this, too. Zed. Yeah, I was going to let you borrow them. Take a listen.
All right. You want these back?
Eventually.
Right.
Maybe when the snow melts.
Just remind me.
Yeah. I guess you're over here every other week, right?
Yeah, unless we have a snow day. Speaking of which, sorry about the late episode, everybody.
Yeah, hopefully we get it up today, but if not, if you're listening to it on Monday, January whatever, then you are on top of the world. And we're not time travel. We wouldn't be time travelers.
No, it would be only a couple hours away.
Yeah.
15th.
But Blaster closed, and they're really good. They had like 15 songs they played. I swear it was a 20-minute set.
Yeah.
They covered Hybrid Moments, which is a minute 40, and they busted it out in probably like a minute.
Yeah. That's always awesome.
Yeah, so that's some good old school punk rock for you.
Hell yeah.
And then we had to go to this pinup contest car show in East Moline. Man, I built this massive wheel.
Was that the Dwyer Michaels?
Yeah, yeah. Rod and Custom.
Rod and Custom.
And I built this massive, like, Price is Right inspired wheel for the Showcase Showdown.
I saw that. Bleep, 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 bleep. Was that on your
Facebook? I put it on my Instagram and my TikTok, and my Instagram and my Facebook are linked.
Okay, yeah. So if you follow Matt on Instagram,
yeah, check that out.
See the build,
and maybe I'll post it to the group or something. I'm not 100% sure how that would work, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
Well, if it's on your that stories thing at the top,
yeah,
I think if you click that, there'll be that little share arrow.
Okay, cool. I'll take a look at that. You know so much about sharing, Dave.
Well, I'm the one that posts all the stuff on the website.
That's true.
Or on the Facebook page.
But yeah, I built this big wheel, and it took me like 4 full days to do it, which is not that long comparatively.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be like, what is like 60 to 70% done for me? Everybody will think it's like 100%.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I was like, good enough.
Mm-hmm. It still looked pretty awesome.
And it worked just fine for the 1 hour that we used it.
Oh yeah, it wasn't every day.
No, we just had the pinup contest one day, and
okay,
and that was it.
Yeah, it even had the neon. It looked just like The Price is Right.
Yeah, the retro looking neon.
Yeah, like are they stars? But they're like pointy. They almost remind me of like Christmas ornaments or something.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but the wife got those at Five Below. They were just USB.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about USB at that doing that. Like, even if it's just a 5-volt USB, you still got to have enough power to run it, because we were like had to split it up between a bunch of different boxes of splitters, and oh Jesus, it was just a stack up of stuff,
Yeah, I can see how that is. The youngest girl got LED lights for her room.
Ooh.
And that
was that for Christmas?
Yeah, but she got USB lights.
Okay.
And they're supposed to. It was like easy assembly or whatever.
in quotes.
Yeah, the old lady and her did it one night, and they stuck it around her room.
Yeah.
But then, because I'm like, you should probably take a washcloth and like wipe the wall first, and then they were up there for like a day, and then they fell down.
Like all of them at once.
Yeah. And then they tried to put them up, and then they kept falling, and then finally I'm like, I'll just do it. Get some nails, get it up there. But because it fell down so many times, like I'd say a third of it, for some reason, like the blue spectrum or the red spectrum doesn't work. But the more you get towards like green, I guess,
yeah,
it starts working.
Weird.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's like a tape strip, so it's not something I can go and like try to solder back together.
Yeah. It's interesting how they do that.
Yeah.
And like just some of the lights started going out in my tree.
Oh,
like,
really?
I have one of those always lit trees to make it easier for when we toss up.
Yeah.
And it's like now the top one doesn't work, and
Yeah.
I got to go through that or something.
You gotta clean the contacts or something, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just put it away. That's a next year Matt Nicky problem.
Yeah. It's future Matt problems. I get that.
I'm glad we had extra time, because building that wheel, I did not have a lot of time to do some research. But here we go.
Yes, we'll see how this works.
Little international waters. I found surprisingly little enjoyment from this.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it got on the list.
I think I put it up there, but I was expecting. I don't know if you've ever seen that episode of The Simpsons. Pod Dog.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that episode of The Simpsons where they go into international waters. I think maybe like Prohibition hits Springfield or something.
Oh, okay.
And so they go into international waters to drink, and there's like a guy marrying a cow, and strippers dancing and gambling and all this. And I didn't find a lot of stories like that. Maybe it's what happens in international waters stays in international waters.
I think that's kind of what it is. But at the what I found is what is it? Well, international waters is once a vessel is in water that's more than 24 miles off the coast of a country. Mm-hmm. It's also known as the high seas. But the laws that the laws of the country that the ship are registered to govern the ship.
Yeah.
So even if you're in international waters and you're on a U.S. ship, like you still have to go by U.S. laws.
Yeah, which is there's only actually one cruise ship that is registered to the U.S. So before we get into that, the rules of being in water starts with territorial waters.
Yes.
And that is 12 nautical miles offshore. I didn't look up what nautical miles were.
They are...
Because a nautical mile is a little bit longer than a regular mile?
Yeah. I don't know the percentage, but I know 200 miles... or 200 nautical miles equals 230 regular miles.
So a nautical mile is a unit of length used in air, marine, and space navigation. Historically, it was defined as the Mediterranean arc length, corresponding to 1 minute of latitude at the equator. Okay.
All right.
So it's like, well, I don't know how that would still be different for like miles traveled on the road.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The Earth is not flat. So like, even if you were driving over a road, you would still be driving over the hump of the Earth, technically.
Yeah, but I think miles is different because that's the standard. Because in other countries they use kilometers, and over here we're like, no, we're gonna use miles. So it's our own made up U.S.
Yeah.
measurement,
Which we did get from England.
Yeah,
Like the foot was like some queen's foot, and like
yeah, because the myth is it's like Hercules' foot,
oh
but then everybody started using different feet, and then I think it was like a queen or a king were like, no, this is the standard, my foot, 12 inches.
So it's just like nautical mile is kilometers and meters are measured from like actual things.
Yeah.
And then that's what a nautical mile would be. So I guess just the fact that it has mile in it is
like irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That makes more sense to me. And I'm like, what's a knot? Is a knot just it's
speed?
Oh, okay.
Because like we're doing 50 knots or whatever.
Okay. And maybe it's just like trimmed down from nautical mile.
Could be like nautical mile per hour.
Yeah.
Just like not.
Okay.
Because them damn pirates were like, oh, boy, we don't pronounce all the words.
Those rebels.
Yeah.
So starting from 12 miles offshore is territorial waters, which was different back in the day.
Okay.
Because it was originally how far a cannon could shoot off the coastline, which was 3 miles.
Okay.
So, like, if you were coming up to a city, you'd stay out 3 miles.
Yeah, because that's their territory. They can shoot you.
Yeah.
That's interesting because then what do you have after that, though? What's after territorial waters?
Oh, after territorial waters is exclusive. Oh, no. The contiguous zone.
Okay.
So after the 12 miles of the territorial waters is the contiguous zone. And within territorial waters, you are and it starts from, I believe, the lowest point of tide to the shoreline.
Makes sense.
And then 12 nautical miles was actually determined by the United Nations, specifically the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. In territorial waters, coastal states can still apply their laws as long as they meet any international treaty laws.
Yeah.
So if you're, 10 miles into the ocean, you still have to abide by American laws.
Yes.
And then the contiguous zone is the next 12 miles after that, so up to 24 nautical miles. And the coastal state still has applying laws within that area when it comes to things like travel, like customs, immigration, sanitation, or physical policies.
Yeah.
So like no wake zones or no oil dumping.
Right.
And then after that is the exclusive economic zone, which extends up to 200 nautical miles from the coastline, gives the coastal state rights to any natural resources of the water.
Yeah, living or non-living resources.
Yep. Which is obviously mostly fishing and oil exploration and extraction rights.
Right. And I got some fun facts.
Oh.
Well, I looked on, when I did it, Quora popped up, and they said...
Quora is really good in that I feel like a lot of people ask the questions I do, so I don't feel so dumb.
Yeah, but I don't know about the answers because they said... Because I asked who owns the most ocean.
Okay.
And their answer was the United States or Canada.
Okay.
And I think they were going by coastline.
Okay. Well, United States has a bunch of territories.
Yeah.
So they own like all the coastline of Hawaii.
And Guam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But World Atlas actually says that it's France.
Huh.
Because...
I don't know what territories they own, but...
They have the most exclusive economic zones. Because if you add up all of their overseas territories, it equals 4,519,000 square miles.
Damn.
And then the U.S. is second with 4,383,000 square miles. And then guess who's third?
Not Canada?
Not Canada.
China.
Nope.
Oh.
Australia.
Australia, okay.
Yes. And they have 3,283,435 square miles of that exclusive economic zone.
Okay. And I wonder if I can't imagine them owning a whole bunch of territories, but their country is the country of Australia is the biggest country?
Possibly. I just saw a map where they shoved a bunch of different countries inside Australia to show you how big it was.
And it's it's like the only one to be a country and a continent.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think they might be third for that too, because I think Russia has the most land mass, and then it's U.S. and then maybe Australia.
Yeah, I would definitely believe that Russia would be bigger than Australia, probably even China, from what I'm seeing in my brain.
Yeah, I think they're probably bigger or maybe about the same square mileage.
And really, without numbers, because I saw a thing where it took like Sweden and Norway, I think it was, and then put them next to like a couple of other countries.
Yeah.
And it was like drastic. I think it was like South American countries, and it was like drastically different in size.
Yeah.
Because like it's like when you have to stand so far away to see from a painting or my wheel. I mean, my wheel looks damn good at 20 feet away.
Yeah.
But when you get right up close to it, you can tell all the things. So when you're looking at a map of the whole world, they have to kind of make it to where you can see as much as you can, I'd imagine.
Well, there's there's a name for it. It's like some kind of somebody's distortion.
Okay.
Because if you take something round and then put it on a flat surface, the tops get expanded to be able to, make it a rectangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why Greenland looks huge, but it's actually not that big.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So in the exclusive economic zone, extending up to 200 nautical miles from the coastline, gives the coastal state right to the natural resources. Many of these zones, ships passing through these zones must maintain innocent passage. So if you have to go by a country within 200 miles, generally you cannot make threats, you cannot use weapons, you can't spy, unload cargo, and submarines must navigate only at the surface. And these are NATO laws, obviously.
Yes.
If you're doing any of these things, you're going to be going about it pretty nefariously. So
right, and that's I had it right here. International Maritime Organization is who keeps track of all that, and that is a branch of NATO, the United Nations.
Okay. And so a lot of these, when you get to some areas, a lot of these zones start to kind of collapse on each other.
Yeah.
So one of the most notorious ones is the South China Sea.
Oh, yeah.
And so nearly 1/3 of all naval shipping traffic comes through this area, has a huge untapped oil reserve, and then the countries that want to get at it and potentially have right to it are China, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, and the Philippines, all border the area within 200 nautical miles. And that's why I think a lot of it is not untapped oil. Because if somebody goes out to start drilling it, everybody else is gonna be like, "Hey!"
Yeah. And not too long ago, maybe like 5 years ago, there was a big controversy where some Chinese island territories, they actually started making man-made islands, so that they could have that territorial,
China
24 miles off to kind of expand.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Their whatever coastal territories, I guess.
And per the UN agreement, these disputes, it's the responsibility of those countries to figure it out. And the countries that I named, we're in America, so maybe I'd surely have a bias. But all those countries, I perceive that they don't have great, working relationships.
It depends. I think those countries are more like you do you and I'll do me, because mostly China's bigger, obviously, and they don't want like a Taiwan issue.
Yeah.
Where they're just going to be like, actually, you're part of us now.
And maybe it was a little bit forward of me to be saying something like that, but
Well, because I know they like to work together because I think it was either Cambodia or Vietnam. I think Cambodia. They decided they have a bunch of rivers and stuff.
mm-hmm.
And so they decided to put a bunch of hydroelectrical dams up
Okay.
so that they could be like the, what they say, like the battery of the Asian Pacific area.
Okay.
So they could sell electricity to other countries.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it backfired a little bit.
Oh no.
Yeah, if you go down the rabbit hole of dam collapses,
Oh.
a lot of them are from down there because they just wanted to do it quick and efficiently. Or not efficiently, but cheaply.
Yeah, that's a no bueno.
Yeah, and then you just get a lot of accidents.
Damn. So yeah, in international waters past that 200 mark, if you're traveling, you need in a boat, your boat needs to be registered somewhere.
Yes. Because if it's not registered, you're not flying a flag, any country can commandeer and come on your boat and take your shit.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. It's one of those weird maritime laws.
That's probably back from when pirates and ship were going on.
Yeah.
So, and that's called or that makes the nationality of the ship, and it's called a flag state. So when you register your boat in the nationality and your flagship state becomes a certain country, you have to follow their laws with regards to minimum wage. And these are just like kind of the top ones that would come and go between countries is minimum wage, gambling, drugs, and prostitution, minimum drinking age, and whether the ship is registered as a wedding venue.
Huh. I don't know about the wedding venue one. I thought if you were on a ship, any captain could marry a person.
Well, you thought. I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because you were talking about the drinking age, or like because it applies to the laws of who you're registered to.
Yep.
And that's why a lot of Caribbean cruise ships, once they get into international waters, some of them, because I've read a lot that has changed, and they just bumped it up to 21 just to be like, wherever we made port originally is what laws we're going to follow.
Because realistically, if you are 18 and you get inebriated, then as soon as you dock somewhere it's illegal, you could be arrested.
In theory, unless you're going to, the Caribbean or somewhere where 18 is the drinking age. But I think, I want to say, it was a while ago when I was watching like a Dateline, and they had a whole series about spring breakers.
Oh, okay.
And like 18-year-olds going and just getting like blackout, like like what do they call it? Binge drinking.
Yeah.
And like, I don't remember much because it was a while ago, but they were like showing kids falling down the hallways and
gosh,
sleeping on stairs and stuff.
Yeah, you really should have to be doing that like in the secrecy of when you have to like secretly get it by your parents, because that keeps you a little bit more accountable.
Yeah, not just being like, woo, I'm 18, I can go on a cruise, and then you just get blasted drunk.
Yeah.
Which is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Never black out around strangers.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So many ships are registered to smaller, poorer countries, and many times this is to some smaller countries have kept their restrictions lower so that ships will register with them. Panama is a big one. Panama has less people than the city of Minneapolis, but holds the registration for 1/4 of the world's ships because taxes and labor costs are lower. So like their minimum wage is lower.
Yeah.
Their taxes for shipping goods is lower. And this is known as a flag of convenience.
Yeah. Because of the regulations and, like you said, minimum wage. That's a big one. Because that's something I looked up that a lot of ships get away with, is paying their people shittily.
Yeah.
Because a lot of there's not a lot of accountability. Mm-hmm. And especially like if you're in international waters, because that's also a trick people will do if they owe someone a debt. they'll just keep their ship out in international waters, and then only come to like refill, or they're like offload to another ship, or like only come to refill to non-regulated ports.
Yeah.
So they're like pirates, kind of.
Kind of pirates. And so with registering with these flags of convenience, you also have to pay their tax to ship, whatever it may be, and then also getting like inspections and surveys of your boat. So you have to pay that as well.
Okay.
And potentially they have maybe looser laws. You know, floating some rusty ass oil rig down the Gulf or whatever.
Well, that's another like one. Because of these convenience things, they say that ships cause or contribute to more air pollution than factories on land.
Oh, damn.
Because on land, you got, you know, like the EPA and stuff, and you got to put scrubbers on, and you got to pay so much for your carbon footprint and yada, yada, yada. Well, these boats out at sea, they don't have those restrictions, maybe, especially if they're from other countries that don't have a strong enough, like, environmental controls.
Yeah.
And so they're just out there, like,
blowing out.
Smoke. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the inspection portions. Shout out to the oil spills episode. You know, there's definitely a couple of boats that probably shouldn't have been floating in that episode, but who knows who they were registered to. Right. And within the U.S., the laws state that if you're registered in the U.S., your boat has to be built, owned, operated, and crewed by U.S. citizens. And that is a restriction from the Jones Act. And thus, the only cruise ship that is owned by the U.S. or flies the flag of the U.S., at least from my research, was the Pride of the U.S. Cruise ship. And then also, if you're not flying the flag for the United States, you have to make one non-U.S. stop in your route.
Okay.
So what I found was a lot of cruises will go from like California, hit a bunch of spots, and hit all the islands in the Hawaii chain, stop at Mexico, and then go to California because they have to make that extra stop.
Yeah. Well, that was something I heard because I think it's Royal Caribbean. They said in international waters, the drinking age will go down to 18 because they're not registered to the U.S., except for cruises from California to Alaska because, yeah, they're only doing stops in the U.S.
And that flag of convenience was a big thing during Prohibition.
Yeah.
As soon as Prohibition hit, all these ships started changing their flags of convenience. And who knows when this Jones Act was enacted. I didn't look that one up. But all these ships started changing their flag of convenience so that they could start serving alcohol when they go out to sea.
Yeah, which makes sense because I was trying to figure this out earlier, but there was it was like just a dinner cruise thing. Mm-hmm. When I lived in North Carolina, a lot of people would go do, because you'd go out on this cruise ship and they'd go out 24 miles or whatever, and then they'd open up the casinos and you could gamble and everything, and then they'd come back.
So, was there not gambling allowed?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, and we did that around here. I don't know what the law was between Illinois and Iowa, but I think all the boats were on the Iowa side, I think.
Illinois had some boats.
Oh, okay.
But that was, one of those things where it was kind of a maritime law.
Yeah.
Where, you could gamble as long as you were on a boat.
Yeah, it was like the law was like casinos cannot be built on these states.
Yeah.
But when you have a boat in the water, it's something different.
Yeah, and they were actually casinos that would actually make a man-made like lake.
Oh.
That was the casino was technically on, but you wouldn't be able to tell that it was on like this man-made lake.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird.
Huh. Yeah, but now it's different here, and we got a bunch of casinos now on land.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I came across was babies being born at sea.
Okay.
And many of these laws were made or understood, maybe even would be a better word, before airplanes, when getting to other countries across the ocean would take months.
Right.
So a lot of probably people traveling to the New World. In 1851, a British consensus stated that more than 3,000 babies were born at sea for their country. And then during the Irish potato famine, more than 8,000 Irish babies were born at sea. 33 babies were born on a single ocean trip crossing to New York in 1848.
Whoa.
That's a lot. A lot of screaming babies.
Yeah. So then what happens? What nationality are they?
Okay, so a lot of countries, not a lot, a few countries, 30 countries, that's actually a huge minority.
Yeah, that's a lot of countries.
Follow the use soli, or right of soil. So the U.S. is one of 30 countries to grant citizenship to anyone born in their country. And if you were to be born on a ship whose flag was the United States or any of these other 30 countries, you would be a citizen of that state.
All right.
So, and some other interesting facts I found out about this was diplomats of a country are not subject to the laws when they visit the United States. That was the context in which I was hearing this information. And so if a diplomat of a country has a kid, even on soil, then it doesn't inherently have the right of American citizenship.
Yes, that's the whole diplomatic community thing.
Yeah.
Because technically a thing is, what are they called? Embassy.
Okay.
Is considered the soil of the country the embassy belongs to.
Yeah, that's like Edward Snowden was is it Edward Snowden?
Edward Snowden is the guy who moved to Russia.
Okay.
Because he didn't want to get extradited for leaking all the
WikiLeaks, yeah. And then wasn't he in and maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, was in an embassy for a long time. Oh no, that was the guy who's now in like a British prison. Or is that still Snowden?
No, it's not Snowden. I know you're talking about. I don't know if he's still in the British. I think he was still just pretty much in house arrest in an embassy because if he left, he'd get arrested.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the Snopes guy, but it was, or maybe it was the guy who owned WikiLeaks.
Okay, there may have been two guys. Like one who leaked everything and one who...
Yeah, Snowden leaked it to them, but the guy who actually owns it...
And some other things are like individuals staging a hostile invasion or occupation of a territory are not granted citizenship under the United States, which is kind of an obvious one, you know?
Yeah.
You come invade Florida and then have a bunch of babies, and then now you run Florida.
Oh, that would be weird. I mean, but that's kind of like, what they call that? The Dreamer Act or whatever, where illegal aliens would come over and then have babies. And the babies would be U.S. citizens. That was like something under Obama that got a lot of flack.
Okay. And I do remember people talking about doing that. I mean, to have the means to be able to do that is probably pretty minimal, I would think. Within those countries, and if you can do it, good for you, I think.
Yeah.
There's also jus sanguinis, or right of blood, to where instead of the country's laws that you're under when you have a baby, it's just the parents' citizenship.
Yeah, because I've heard that before. Like, say if you're like an army brat or something, but you get born in Germany, you're still an American citizen. Or like if your parents are on vacation for some reason in the third trimester,
yeah,
you get born in a different country. Yeah.
And so theoretically, if you were on a boat whose flagship was right of soil and had a baby, and the parents were two different citizens, that baby could have a 3-piece citizenship.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's pretty interesting. I always thought it'd be cool to be a dual citizen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm not sure how that works at all, though.
Me neither. I know some people. Well, I guess I don't know if she is a dual citizen. I would guess, though, because she lives here. But I also think she has to go back to France every once in a while. I'll have to ask her about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I don't know if you become a citizen, if you still have dual, like you can get 2 different passports, or you have to have an American passport.
Yeah. Or is there a special passport for both?
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, it's got 2 lines that you write on.
Maybe.
And then I also found that like airplanes are kind of in this situation as well. I didn't look at like the air height, because I think most countries own everything to the ozone layer.
I think so.
But they do sometimes travel over international waters.
Yeah, but I think it said the atmosphere. Like if you look it up, well, it's called global commons, and those parts of the planet that fall outside national jurisdiction and to which all nations have access: the high seas, the atmosphere, Antarctica, and outer space.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that atmosphere, maybe it's so high up.
It could be.
Yeah.
Well, and then I did see that there's space law too. I wasn't able to look that one up before we started recording, but
it's generally like maritime law, and this common, the global commons, because technically, I know recently they've been like trying to land on meteors and stuff, and like, oh, if we can grab that.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Or asteroids, I guess it would be. And they land on it, and if it's like a big chunk of iron, technically a country can't claim that and bring it back.
Okay.
Because it's the same as like it's claiming the ocean.
Okay.
Whatever. And then it's also the same that the people who are going into space, they regulate themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of like the Antarctic Treaty where you can't build bases down there. So you can't build a military base in space.
Yes.
Or have guns in space.
You can't have guns?
Why
would you want a gun in a spaceship? You fucking break the seal, man.
Or like a laser. What if you had
a laser gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's space to me.
Right?
A phaser.
Yeah, but you can't be like, oh, Bezos is going to space, and then we're going to send up our rocket and shoot him down. Like,
pew.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to set all your phasers to stun when entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Yes.
I did find that there are a lot of disappearances in international waters.
Yes, I saw that too. From what I saw, it said thousands of suspected murders occur and go unpunished each year in open waters.
Yeah. And from what I had found is between all of like the law variations between where you're ported, what level of the ocean you're in, your ship flag, it becomes a lot of finger pointing.
Right.
And then you're so far away from like government law enforcement groups that there's generally very little evidence.
Yes.
Like it won't get reported until they get back to somewhere else. Or I even found a case where they just didn't report it.
Yeah.
This 40-year-old Marion Carver, a former investment banker from Cambridge, Massachusetts, she was divorced, and her 13-year-old daughter was spending the summer with her ex-husband. Marion decided to take a Royal Caribbean cruise ship to Alaska. Marion's daughter called her grandparents, Marion's parents, and told them that she hadn't heard from her mom in a week. Well, they filed a missing report in Cambridge, and they didn't even know she was on this cruise.
Oh.
So the police finally found a credit card trail to tickets purchased for a flight and a cruise. And the cruise had left and come back and didn't let anyone know that she had gone missing. The family had requested a video surveillance from the cruise line. Originally, they stated that there was no video, and then later it was determined that there was video, but it was damaged, so they couldn't use it as evidence.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty slickery right there.
Yeah.
Later, it was found that a stewardess who was, cleaning and doing all that kind of stuff to her room, she reported that Miriam had not used her room after just 2 days on the cruise. And then another steward was told to pack her things after all the other passengers had left the ship. Okay. They had the one room full of stuff that she didn't leave with. So, hey, pack this stuff up. Then the family had asked Royal Caribbean for her things, and the cruise ship replied to their emails that her belongings had been disposed of.
Okay.
Like, just destroying any evidence.
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean later released a statement that Miriam had committed suicide aboard their ship.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, from what I had seen, that's kind of what happens in a lot of these, is that there's no evidence of anything happened, mostly because it's not reported. And then who's supposed to do the law stuff? Is it when was she murdered? Where was she in the ocean? Whose responsibility is it?
Yeah, is it the country the ship's registered to, or is it the port that you landed in when you get there?
Yeah. So that, to me, is what it sounded like a lot of these cruise disappearances, I guess, for lack of a better term. And who knows if maybe that's technically a closed case.
Yeah.
Because they were like, yeah, she killed herself.
Well, and also a lot of them can't, because you're in like a tanker or like a shipping container transport. There's maybe 50 people?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, however many, because you're just driving there. It's not like there's a lot of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like the maintenance people, the people that drive it, and then the grunts that run around and tie ropes off.
Yeah.
But you're not like crab fishing or anything. So then if somebody falls off, or if two people get into a fight and somebody gets stabbed and they just kind of like push the body in the ocean.
Yeah.
If everybody's on board with not wanting to hassle.
Yeah, that guy was a dick anyway.
Yeah, so you're just like,
gotta hire somebody else.
Yeah, and then that's one of those things when then their family's like, well, what happened? Like, well, we did a head count in the morning and he wasn't here, so we guess he fell off or jumped.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, we were talking a little bit about kids on spring break, and maybe you have too much to drink and you do kind of stumble over the railing. From what I've seen of the railing on cruise ships, it's just waist to chest high piping. You can go right over that thing if you're stumbling around.
Yeah, and
or you're puking over the side because you're motion sick, and all of a sudden it takes a bad rock and you just splash.
Right. I want to say there was because I went overseas on a naval vessel, and I want to say there was at least 4 people that went overboard.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they get them back?
Nope.
Oh, damn.
And it really sucked because, on the way there, one person got lost. But on the way back, when we were going on our way back home, we kept getting delayed because someone would go over and then because we had helicopters and shit, and they'd go out and search. But yeah, it's really odd, but a good majority of people in the Navy aren't the best swimmers.
Well, that is odd. I guess you should be staying on the boat.
Yeah, because one of the ones that I remember, when you're out to sea for 60 days and you haven't made port, they give you a fun day where they make really shitty old hamburgers and give you warm beer. You get 2 warm beers.
Okay.
I was on nights, so I'd always just sleep through it because I'm like, this doesn't seem.
I would rather sleep.
Yes, but they were playing football, and on an aircraft carrier,
on the deck, the flight deck or something.
Yeah, but they do have these nets that if stuff falls off, it kind of catches it.
Yeah,
and I think the guy was diving for the ball, and he's like, I'll just land on the net," but he went over.
Oh,
and he couldn't swim, so he was holding onto the football as a flotation device, and his friend saw him, obviously, and stood there and then called man overboard. And then what they do is everybody has to assemble so they can get a head count to find out who actually went over.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of staying there and watching where his friend was, he went and assembled.
Oh.
And so then when they're the rescue people, they're couldn't find him.
Oh.
If he just would have stayed there and kept an eye on him, he could be right there.
Yeah.
Because as big as the ocean is, seems like it's like if you're out there in the middle of nowhere, it's like you're on a big blue dinner plate.
Yeah. Flat.
Yeah. But for as flat as it is, the waves are actually kind of choppy, and you can lose like a little dot really easily.
Yeah, and I mean, how tall is something like that from the ocean, from the surface of the ocean?
Yeah, I mean,
like stories?
I'd say like 4 stories up.
4 stories to the deck?
Yeah.
That's a long way, man.
Yeah, so it's a big, because that's how they teach you how to properly jump from that height, where you got to like, you cross your legs and you hold onto your helmet.
Okay.
And you just like pencil into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just going to
break your bones or something.
Yes. Like hitting concrete.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, even in like, you know, a 3-story hotel, when you're looking outside and your buddy's walking by, like maybe you can tell that that's him.
Yeah.
And especially like looking down, because a person, you know, is 5 foot tall and 2 foot wide when you look head on, but as soon as you get vertical, they're like a foot deep and you know, 2 feet wide.
Yeah, so it's crazy. One guy, we got a couple, because other people fell off, but we got a couple of them back.
Okay,
like
that's good.
One guy was going to get court-martialed, and before his like trial, they took him to the smoke area, and so he's smoking there, and when the guy like kind of, the escort guy was lax, he jumped over.
Oh no!
Like they got him.
I'll
back.
take my chances.
Right, but they got him back, so they had to stand the trial wet, like in his uniform. And another guy, they have watches, and he was at the rear. And at night, on military ships, they go dark. Mm-hmm. So because any lights in a big void of black, is noticeable from miles. And he was on the back, and he fell asleep.
Did you have like red lights to?
In any place that was open was red lights. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes we'd have to go up on the flight deck to like check to see if the piece I was working on worked on the plane, because we're like, well, it works down here, and they're like, well, it doesn't work up here, so we have to like make sure. And just walking up there, it's crazy because you can see so many stars.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just looking up, and I had to remember that I'm on a flat. Like, there's no railing. Yeah. So I'd be like, oh, I should not just be staring at the sky.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've always wanted to go on a cruise. I never have. Probably never will. But Jay and Silent Bob are doing a cruise. Kevin Smith's doing a cruise.
I mean, it's interesting, but you're stuck.
Yeah. And at work, Brad went on a cruise one time. It was like an all-metal cruise.
Yeah.
And he made it sound really fun. Like, you get to meet a lot of great, cool people, because you're in a spot where, like, especially like a metal cruise or like a View Askew cruise or something, you're there for a specific reason. It's not like you're just at a Disney cruise where everybody loves Disney, so you don't know who you're kind of bumping into.
Right, and it's probably cool too, because if you're on a cruise like that, or they do like the comedy cruises, and say it's a week, so there's like 5 bands, maybe 10 bands, an opener and a band every night. Those people have to go. They don't have just green rooms. You know?
Yeah.
So if you're like at the buffet, you might bump into like Phil Anselmo or something and be like, "Oh, that's cool."
That'd be cool, and that's what he made it kind of sound like. I don't think it was a huge band, but it was a band that he really liked. That he got to party with the guys.
Yeah, and that's always cool. But the biggest thing is how much pollution those things cause. Yeah. Because I also looked up that as long as you're 25 miles out to sea, you can pretty much dump anything except plastic.
Okay.
But that's also one of the things where it's like, oh yeah, we'll keep our plastic and recycle it when we get back. But if nobody's around, I mean, because
and then you got any cruise ship is probably owned by a bazillionaire, and they're like, keep costs low.
Yeah, because there were times when we'd be out in the exact middle, and it would be like a free for all, where you'd have like a time limit when we were in this certain zone, and you could just like get rid of stuff in your shop that you didn't need anymore.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's common practice. They made it seem like you're allowed to, but he was just like hucking stuff off the boat.
Hucking like old broken circuit boards and shit.
Yeah, and, like test equipment that is from the 70s that we don't use anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would be kind of fun.
I mean, yeah.
Just get a running start and just like, what's the thing where you have the ball and
shot put?
You just shot put an old oscilloscope out into the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, but we had a battery locker where we would recharge batteries and refill them. But if you're charging a battery, they can go thermal, which means they'll start on fire and explode.
Yeah.
So like sometimes if you could put a piece of wire across the terminals and then kind of touch it to the plastic, it'll start smoking. And the like smoking area was right outside the door. So sometimes we'd make little like fake, like they were going thermal, and we'd just be like, "Oh, get out of the way!" and just throw it over. And people would be like, "Oh my God, what was that? Like, it was gonna blow."
It was gonna blow.
Just so everybody would just get out of your way. I don't know. It's just when you're out to sea, you gotta find stuff to do.
And you're a 20-year-old dude,
right?
You're coming up with some good pranks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Do you know all the 7 seas?
No. Oh, name them all?
Yeah.
Pacific, Arctic, Atlantic, Indian.
Well, those are the 4 oceans.
Oh shit! 7 seas. South China Sea? You better tell me.
Okay. Well, according to
there are only 4 oceans, though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic.
Yeah.
And then the 7 seas is Arctic, North Atlantic, South Atlantic, North Pacific, South Pacific, Indian, and then the Southern Oceans.
Huh.
Yeah.
Really, they're just like 7.
Yeah, but technically there's 50 seas on the ocean or on the world.
Okay.
The world, because like the Black Sea isn't connected to an ocean.
Oh, okay.
But then there's the Mediterranean Sea, and then I guess it's just the Gulf of Mexico, but the Caribbean Sea, or something like that. Yeah, so there's little seas or like all over, but I guess the 7 big ones are.
What makes a sea a sea?
Is it probably has to be something with the size?
Seas are smaller than oceans and are usually located where the land and ocean meet. Typically, seas are partially enclosed by land. Seas are found on the margins of oceans and are partially enclosed by lands.
But like the Black Sea and the Red Sea are landlocked. And technically, the Great Lakes should be seas because they're bigger than like some of the seas out there.
Mm. So yeah, like by the Gulf of Mexico, everybody knows, and then you got like the Caribbean Sea is kind of where it comes out below Florida. You got the Caribbean Sea kind of below that, where like Jamaica and Haiti are. But then like past Florida, you got the Sargasso Sea.
Yeah, that's where that big. We talked about this in the Bermuda Triangle episode. There's that big seaweed patch that's like weird, and it's like also where wind just stops and boats will just be like stuck.
And then you also have like, what's the difference between a bay and a gulf? And I don't know.
I think the bay is smaller than a gulf.
What do you call a bird that flies over the bay?
A seagull?
A bagel.
Oh, bagel.
That's all I had about the thing. There did seem to be a lot of murders on ships.
Yeah, and like
I just didn't write them all down.
That's very murky. That it seems almost worse than going on vacation and getting murdered and being a U.S. citizen or a citizen of a different country.
Yeah, because
depending on where you're at, if they're helpful with the country that's doing the investigation, or if they're like, no, just Bob did it or whatever. And then they just, because there was a lady who they accused of murder and then got held, and she's like, no, but then there was no evidence or like trying to get the evidence to see how they came to the conclusion that she did it, and it was a whole big thing. And then she finally got like let go after like a couple of years, I think, of just being in a foreign prison.
Weird.
Yeah, but I bet to be on the ocean and get murdered or get blamed for murder is way more messier to try to figure out.
Yeah. Or like you could murder somebody and then murder one person right after that and be like, yeah, I saw this guy murder her and I was trying to grab him and then he just jumped.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm not getting caught. The only other thing I have is that Mediterranean law or maritime law tracks back to the ancient Egyptians.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just to ensure safety and fair trade, as well as settle disputes between different parties. But the first one, the records that we have that are still written down somewhere, was from 800 BC, and it's the Rhodian sea laws, and they were created in the Isle of Rhodes in Greece and governed sea trade. And it was also what the Romans based their sea laws on, because the Romans stole everything from the Greeks. So I thought that was kind of cool that even way back in the day, they still had laws and probably like trading lanes, especially back then when you relied on the wind.
Wind and current.
So you would have the certain trade routes. So if you're like a warship and you're like, that's the trading lanes, you can't attack those ships, but these other ships are battle, you can take care of them, kind of thing.
It's crazy how so much of our concepts come from so far back.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea of, you think we're such advanced civilization, but back in the day, they were still building fucking pyramids and had these laws, and we get democracy from the Greeks, which is, way before, our centuries.
Yeah.
The AD or whatever.
But America did it right.
Well, I mean, technically, because even France based their constitution off of ours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because our founding fathers, for being fucking pig-headed racist, they were still like, well, men are flawed, and so we're going to work that into the Constitution, because even though we think we're pretty smart people, we're not going to get this right.
Oh, yeah, corruption always comes.
Yeah, so they're like this, so they made it to be like, it's a really good thing. Like, as much as I hate government now, and as much as, like I said, slave voting bigots, the founding fathers did know that their limitations were baked in, whatever. They made up for it, because they knew that they didn't have all the answers, and that as the country expanded, they're going to need it's going to need to be flexible. Yeah. So that's what makes it the best constitution in the world.
For now.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Sorry for the late upload, but don't really care.
Yeah, we got 15 inches of snow. It's right now it's below zero, so all the snow is not melting, and it's just being ice on my driveway.
And I'm just glad we finally got to hang out again after the One Night Sanders pod. It's been so long.
Heavy Metal Deadle.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a really good one.
Number one fan Cam said she enjoyed that one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and she also texted me today and said, "Where's my podcast?"
I was wondering if she was going to text you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes. Well, I was going to say we'll hear you, but we won't.
Nope.
You'll just hear us.
But we're always open to hearing from you. Leave a comment. Check out the Facebook page, Blue Ribbon Lounge Podcast on Facebook.
Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Leave,
if you...
what do they call it? A rating on the Apple, or the whatever that we're on.
Yeah.
Leave stars or thumbs up or whatever.
You know what, Dave? I was on another podcast talking about our podcast.
Oh, shit. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, Black Magic TV on YouTube. He's got he's got a lot of cool people he talks to, especially if you like the episodes with Hollywood Dave, the longer ones about general music and stuff. I think you would really like some of his interviews and talks. He does a lot of that.
Yeah, his is a little interesting because it's almost like a live stream.
He does when he live streams. A lot of times he just plays video games with his friends.
Yeah.
But he was getting on, and I like to watch him and just hear like what he talks about and stuff. And I comment and stuff like that. I like the interaction.
Yeah, because the one that you're on, he was watching anime trailers in the beginning.
Yeah.
People in the chat were like, "Hey, have you seen this one or that one?"
Yeah. And so I was just on there talking to him, and he was like, "You want to hop on?" And so I did. It was really fun talking to him.
It was a good interview too.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, here goes Matt," and I'm like, "Oh, no, it's pretty good."
Well, thanks for listening. For God's sakes, take care of yourselves.
Yes, and remember, when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Oh no, do we lose everything?
No.
Okay.
Not everything.